Good evening. Welcome to the Crown Hill Journey. I'm Christina Apt. I am your guide on this Crown Hill journey. I'm also the person who wrote the book that we're reading. Crown Hill, just to give a little bit of background to people who are joining maybe for the first time, Crown Hill really exists. It is a farmhouse, a 3,400 square foot farmhouse on 14 acres in Eden, New York. It is a place where I lived for 20 years, the longest I've lived anywhere in my life. So know that the foundation of this story about there being a house in Eden is true. The people that you hear about that live there, so far we've heard about Mary and Owen Southwick and about Edward Randall and his family. They also did actually live there. The Spaldings that you hear about, I don't know if Helen Spalding was really there, but there was definitely a Spalding family. In fact, the Spalding family still lives in that house now. And Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is absolutely true. He spent time with Edward Randall and spent time at Crown Hill. The other person that you hear about referred to along the way is Emily French. And Emily French is actually a real person as well. She lived in Rochester, New York, which is about 90 miles, I don't know, west of here. I'm not good with direction, but 90 miles from Buffalo. And she was a direct voice medium. And she was so good at what she did that she became nationally renowned. And the spirit she channeled more often than any other was Red Jacket, who was a Seneca Nation warrior. And in fact, she slept in a bed where his portrait hung over the top behind her bed. So they clearly had something going on. But Emily was a very prominent medium, and Edward became one of her greatest disciples. So when you hear about Edward, Sir Arthur, Emily, Mary and Owen, they all really lived or had something to do with Crown Hill. Tonight, we will be in the second book, which is our Edward, and we are moving on to chapter 11. There are 14 chapters with Edward, so we're getting pretty darn close to the end. Then we will move on to Meg, and Meg has 19 chapters. She and Mary form the real core of this book. So I look forward to getting to Meg because her story is in 1995, whereas Edward's is in 1922, I believe it is, and Mary's was in 1884. So it'll be nice to move into more the present day. But we'll start first, a sip of wine. Yum. Okay. Crown Hill, a novel of love, life, and the afterlife. Book 2, Edward, Chapter 11. Edward tossed and turned through the night. In the dawn of the new morning, he found himself searching for guidance and struggling for inspiration as to what should be done. In a matter of a few hours, Rose would appear at his door, ready to undertake her role as Sir Arthur's official transcriber. Edward felt terribly guilty. The job was but a thinly veiled excuse to try and attract the spirit that had appeared during the girl's initial visit to Crown Hill. Yet, in discussing this subterfuge with Doyle, the spiritualist proffered a valid point. "I say, old chap, 'tis quite possible the spirit may not even appear again. The woman in the mirror may very well be gone from Crown Hill as oddly as she appeared." Edward wanted to believe in such a possibility, but his instinct was that it was only a matter of time before Rose and the spirit connected again. Right now, Edward's primary concern was protecting the innocent child from being overwhelmed and frightened by any potential spiritual happenings that might occur. If only he and Sir Arthur had been truthful with Rose and her mother from the start, this circumstance would be much easier to manage. On the other hand, Edward's lawyerly logic forced him to acknowledge that if they had explained their quandary to Elizabeth, Rose's mother, she might never have allowed her daughter to return to Crown Hill. The more Edward considered the problem, the more disturbed he became. Finally, the barrister decided to rise and go to his desk. At least there he could write to his wife, Maria, and express how much he missed both she and the girls. Perhaps, he thought, in communicating with his wife, it would help him clear his thoughts. Edward had not heard from Maria since her departure. Between the distraction of Sir Arthur's arrival and connecting with Rose, there had been no time to really consider his family's absence. With his conscience now hammering away at his righteousness, Edward found himself drawn to thoughts of his devoted wife and his sweetly impressionable daughters. Unfortunately, those thoughts also increased his compunction over deceiving Rose. No matter which way his mind turned, Edward was mired in self-reproach. 2 quick raps on the bedroom door startled Edward halfway off the chair. "Oh, had no intent to intrude, old chap. Rather, I was heading down for an early morning spot of tea. Noticed your light. Is everything up tip-top?" Edward really didn't know how to answer his friend's query. Nothing was overtly wrong, but nothing felt quite right either. His wife and daughters were miles away, his family spending their summer season apart. His favored vacation residence felt foreign and unfriendly. And at the base of all his concerns, Edward felt almost evil about the manner in which they were involving young Rose in their spiritual quest. "To tell you the truth, Doyle, I'm just feeling a little unsettled about everything going on both at Crown Hill and in my life right now. Try as I may to analyze and condense it into a matter of right or wrong, it's just not that easy. So I guess I'm out of sorts about everything. If I have layered my concerns on you, I apologize." "Not at all, my dear fellow. I can certainly understand your mindset. What do you say we both get a spot of tea and begin our morning on that wonderful porch of yours? Undoubtedly a breath of fresh air along with the early morning sunrise will serve us both well." The men savored their tea along with generous slices of Alice's egg, ham, and cheese pie. They topped off their hearty breakfast with the housekeeper's delectable scones, topped with her Concord grape preserves, made with freshly picked fruits from the adjoining vineyards. While savoring each morsel, Edward and Sir Arthur judiciously reviewed their plans for the day. "I believe that when the young girl arrives, we should unquestionably bring her into the dining room and have her begin to transcribe your notes at the table," Sir Arthur began. "I also think it would be quite important to seat her facing the sideboard and the mirror." "I suppose," Edward reluctantly responded. He immediately added, "I want to be sure that we do not leave her alone in the dining room, or in any room for that matter, in case the spirit does appear again. We need to always be in close proximity so that we can witness Rose's reaction should any spiritual activity occur." As a contrite afterthought, Edward added, "And of course, to make sure that she is protected from all harm. Not to be bothersome on this point of protection, but I'm realizing a sense of failure in not protecting my own young girls, as well as my wife, from the impact of that spirit. It is vital that I do not fail again with Rose." "Absolutely, my dear chap, and I completely understand and respect your viewpoint," Sir Arthur agreed. "Now, the only other thing we need to discuss is the séance." The mention of the word caused Edward to shudder. When Emily was alive, the two had partnered in many spiritual engagements. However, since her passing, Edward rarely ventured into the spiritual realm. Such undertakings were no longer as comfortable as they had been with Emily. To think of delving into that world of spirits without the guidance of his trusted friend, or worse yet, by relying on an innocent and unaware youngster, was completely unsettling. "Come now, old man," Arthur spoke, recognizing his friend's discomfort. "You and I have been independently involved in many seances over the years. I have no doubt we will be able to handle whatever comes our way. Chin up. There really is no reason to worry." Edward smiled weakly and nodded. He wished he could be as sure-minded as Arthur. Taking a deep breath, the troubled lawyer was about to broach their possible need for a darkly quiet séance room when Agnes materialized at the porch door. "Excuse me, sirs, but there's a young girl here to see you. It's Rose Jennings from the Spalding house up the road. She says she's supposed to start working here today. Something about copying a book. What would you like me to do with her?" An uncomfortable tingle crept along Edward's spine like a multi-legged spider. Why had the child come to Crown Hill so early? He clearly recalled Sir Arthur stating 1:30 in the afternoon as their appointed starting time. Nervously, Edward wondered if somehow the child's mother had discovered their devious plan and commanded her daughter to withdraw from the project. In a state of distress, he offered a softly pleaded invocation. "Emily, I can only hope that you are here to guide us." "I beg your pardon, sir, but is Emily the name of your wife?" The question came from Rose, now standing beside Agnes in the porch doorway. Caught off guard, Edward deflected the girl's question by issuing a sharp command. "Agnes, take the young lady into the dining room." As the housekeeper led Rose to a seat in the dining table, Edward and Arthur followed closely and settled into chairs opposite the child. Lacking direction or protocol, Edward began by asking a question. "My dear Rose, whatever are you doing here so early? You aren't shirking your duties at the Spaldings, are you?" Oh, no, sir, not at all," she earnestly replied. "Actually, I got up early and finished all my work. Then I packed my lunch and brought it with me, promising Mother that I would be sure to eat. You see, I have been known to get wrapped up in whatever I'm doing and forget to take nourishment. Then I can become faint. It always embarrasses my mother so, and she does not want anything like that to happen while I'm working with you here at Crown Hill." The young girl's pure intent and sincerity of response added to Edward's discomfort over the less than honest situation. Again, he felt his conscience reproach him. What Edward could not possibly fathom was that the roles he and Sir Arthur were playing in this drama were no longer of their own plan or accord. Rather, the universe was now in control of all that was about to happen within Crown Hill, including the imminent interaction between the living and the dead. I felt Rose's presence from the moment she appeared at my door. I felt Mary rising up within me as the child crossed my threshold. The strength of their converging spirits felt uncontrollable, much like a powerful tidal wave rising to envelop all in its path. As I struggled to remain steadfast, I wondered, how would I manage Mary and support Rose at the same time? How would I balance their individual beings in concert with their strong connection? My concerns quickly became irrelevant as Rose proceeded fearlessly from the porch into the dining room. Immediately, I felt Mary move as well, but to where, I was unsure. I decided that rather than try and prevent or control Mary's actions, I would wrap my protective powers around the child. Yet, as I drew near, a force prevented me. "Stop! Stay away! Do not interfere!" It was a message delivered into my being without context or connection. Whose words were they, and why? Mystified, I searched within for Mary. "Mary, Where have you gone? Answer me. What is happening? Not a word. Not a motion. No sense of her spirit anywhere. Disoriented, I turned my attention to the dining room. Agnes had withdrawn to resume her kitchen duties. Edward, Sir Arthur, and Rose were seated at the table beside the buffet in which Mary had appeared. All seemed in peaceful order. At the same time, tension streamed through me, filling every room. If I should continue to radiate such apprehension, Edward and Sir Arthur would undoubtedly struggle to create the tranquility needed to connect Rose and Mary. Drawing on the quietude of my being, I focused on how to best aid them in their circumstance. Instinctively, I wanted to extend myself to Rose. I felt compelled to move her away from the sideboard, away from the mirror where I could still imagine Mary's tortured face. Once more, I cautiously moved toward the innocent young girl. Stay away from the child. Leave her. The voice carried a force that halted me. I was now fully aware that something or someone with momentous power was within me. It was clear I no longer had control of my own being or anything that was about to occur within my walls. So, there we are. Now, who do you think the voice is? If you have a guess, put it in the comments. I'd love to know who you think it is. And yeah, this is, like I said, this is a house that I lived in for 20 years, and this is the story of what happened in that house. Some of it's from my imagination, but it's all based in the reality of the people who live there and the things that my neighbors shared with me about it. So I hope that you enjoyed the Crown Hill journey this evening. I hope you'll come back. Like I said, this was chapter 11. We only have 14 chapters with Edward. So 12, 13, 14. You got 3 chapters, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to go on in the next 3 chapters. So you come back and share it with me, will you? Because that the house was a very special place for me, and to be able to share this story with all of you is wonderful. So thank you for joining me tonight, and I hope you have a good night. I hope you sleep well. No ghosts or goblins, and I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow night at 7:30 right here on the Crown Hill Journey.